Life unfolds as it must. The more we try to force it into our own rigid expectations, the more we suffer. We chase control, clench our fists around outcomes, and resist what simply is. But the universe is not ours to command. It moves according to its own rhythm. True strength lies not in fighting this, but in understanding it. There is a deep sense of peace that comes from understanding the difference between what is within our control and what is not. Much of human suffering arises not from the events themselves, but from our resistance to them. We live under the illusion that we can dictate the course of life, that if we plan enough, worry enough, or force things enough, we can make everything bend to our will. Yet reality does not operate according to our desires. It moves on its own accord, indifferent to our personal expectations. The sooner we recognize this, the sooner we free ourselves from unnecessary suffering. Control is an alluring idea. It gives us the feeling of certainty, security, and predictability. But this feeling is often an illusion. No amount of planning can prevent unexpected hardships. No amount of effort can completely eliminate uncertainty. The world moves in ways that do not always align with our plans. People act according to their own nature, circumstances unfold in ways we cannot predict, and life presents challenges that no one could foresee. In resisting these truths, we create unnecessary tension, trying to control what was never ours to command. However, this is not an argument for passivity. It does not mean we should abandon effort or resign ourselves to fate without taking action. On the contrary, it calls for a more focused, intentional approach to life. The key lies in redirecting our energy toward what is truly within our control: our actions, our mindset, and our responses to what happens around us. This is where our power lies, not in external events, but in the way we perceive and interact with them. Consider a storm. It is beyond our control. We cannot stop the winds, change the course of the rain, or will the sky to clear. But we can prepare, seek shelter, and adapt to the conditions. The wise person does not waste energy cursing the storm or demanding that it change. They accept its presence and adjust accordingly. Life's challenges are no different. We cannot prevent misfortune, nor can we dictate how others behave. But we can decide how we respond. We can choose patience over frustration, wisdom over impulse, and action over complaint. People often struggle with this distinction. They exhaust themselves trying to change others, seeking to make people think differently, acting or meet their expectations. But others are not within our control. They have their own will, their own perceptions, their own journey. Trying to force them into a mold of our making is a futile effort that only leads to frustration. Instead of trying to change people, we can change the way we engage with them. We can choose understanding over resentment, boundaries over manipulation, and acceptance over resistance. In doing so, we free ourselves from the burden of trying to control what is not ours to control. The same principle applies to the past and the future. Many spend their lives trapped in regret, replaying past events as if they can alter them by thinking about them long enough. But the past is done. It cannot be rewritten. We can learn from it, but we cannot relive it. Holding on to regret only drains us of the energy needed to shape the present. The future, on the other hand, is uncertain. We can prepare for it, but we cannot dictate it. Worrying about what may happen does not prevent it from happening. It only robs us of the ability to fully experience the present moment. To live with peace, one must master the art of letting go. This does not mean abandoning responsibility, but rather choosing where to place our efforts. It means shifting our focus from external outcomes to internal mastery. When we relinquish the need to control everything, we gain true control of our own minds, our own actions, and our own inner state. The mind that is at peace with this distinction is unshaken by life's unpredictability. It does not crumble under hardship, nor does it cling to fleeting pleasures. It moves through life with a quiet confidence, knowing that while it cannot command the winds, it can adjust its sails. It understands that true freedom does not come from controlling the external world, but from mastering the internal one. We live in a world that constantly measures success and failure based on outcomes. From an early age, we are taught that results determine our worth: achievements, recognition, material gain. Society conditions us to believe that happiness is tied to specific outcomes, that fulfillment is found in reaching a particular destination. But this mindset is a trap. When we tie our peace of mind to outcomes, we place our well-being in something we ultimately cannot control. No matter how much effort we put in, no matter how well we prepare, the final result is never entirely in our hands. Detaching from outcomes does not mean abandoning effort. It does not mean refusing to set goals or ceasing to strive for improvement. Instead, it means shifting our focus from what we cannot control the result to what we can control the process. The wise person understands that effort belongs to them, but the outcome does not. They act with discipline, focus, and intention, yet they remain indifferent to whether things turn out as hoped. This is not indifference in the sense of not caring. It is a deeper understanding that clinging to a specific result only leads to unnecessary suffering. When we attach ourselves to outcomes, we make our happiness conditional. We tell ourselves that we will be content only if a certain event happens, only if things unfold in a particular way. But life does not bend to our desires. Unexpected obstacles arise, circumstances change, and other people act according to their own nature, not ours. When things do not go as planned, attachment to outcomes breeds frustration, disappointment, and resentment. It fills the mind with worry, always thinking ahead, calculating possibilities, fearing failure. This robs us of the ability to fully engage with the present moment. Consider an archer. They can train for years, perfect their stance, steady their breathing, and release the arrow with precision. But once the arrow leaves their fingers, the outcome is no longer in their control. The wind may shift, the target may move, external forces may interfere. If the archer ties their satisfaction solely to whether the arrow hits the bullseye, they suffer needlessly. But if they take pride in the act of shooting itself, their preparation, their skill, their focus, then they remain undisturbed, regardless of the final result. Their peace of mind is not at the mercy of an unpredictable world. This principle applies to all aspects of life. When we work hard toward a goal, we should do so not because we demand a specific outcome, but because the effort itself is meaningful. A person who writes a book should not do it solely for the purpose of recognition or sales, but for the love of writing itself. A musician who plays an instrument should do it not to seek fame, but because the act of playing is fulfilling. When we detach from results, we free ourselves from the anxiety of expectation. We focus fully on the task at hand, bringing our best to the present moment without being weighed down by future worries. The greatest irony is that detachment from outcomes often leads to better results. When we are too fixated on success, we tense up, overanalyze, and let fear dictate our actions. But when we let go of the need for a specific result, we move with greater ease, clarity, and confidence. A mind unburdened by attachment performs at its best. The athlete who plays for the love of the game, rather than the pressure to win, moves with greater fluidity. The artist who creates without worrying about public reception produces work that is more authentic. At its core, detachment is freedom. It is the ability to act with full presence, to give our best effort, and then release our grip on the outcome. It is trusting that whatever happens, we will adapt, learn, and continue forward. By embracing this mindset, we rid ourselves of unnecessary suffering and experience a deeper, more lasting peace. Struggles are an inevitable part of life. No one is exempt from hardship, and no amount of planning, preparation, or caution can eliminate the challenges that come our way. Yet what causes suffering is not the struggle itself, but how we perceive it. When we see difficulty as a burden, an unfair punishment, or an obstacle blocking our path, we resist it, and that resistance creates suffering. But when we shift our perspective and see struggles as opportunities for growth, they lose their power to disturb us. Hardship is no longer something to avoid, but something to embrace, something that sharpens us, strengthens us, and refines our character. Growth never comes from comfort. A muscle does not become stronger without resistance. A mind does not become sharper without challenge. A person does not develop wisdom, resilience, or discipline without facing adversity. Those who seek an easy life, free of struggle, may find temporary comfort, but they will remain stagnant. They will never know their own strength, because they have never been tested. The wise person does not seek to avoid struggle, but to learn from it. They understand that every difficulty contains within it a lesson, a chance to develop patience, endurance, and inner peace. When misfortune strikes, the initial reaction is often frustration or despair. It is easy to ask, why is this happening to me? Or what did I do to deserve this? But these questions are unhelpful. They position us as victims, as passive recipients of suffering, rather than as active participants in our own growth. A more useful question is, what can this teach me? Or how can I use this to become stronger? With this shift in perspective, what once seemed like an unbearable burden becomes a powerful teacher. Imagine two people facing the same challenge: a sudden financial setback, a personal betrayal, or a failure in their career. One person allows the situation to break them. They dwell on their misfortune, blame others, and sink into hopelessness. The other sees it as a test, an opportunity to build resilience. They analyze their mistakes, adapt, and come back stronger. The same external event occurs, but the experience is vastly different because of their mindset. Every great figure in history, every person who has achieved something of significance, has faced hardship. No one reaches wisdom or greatness without struggle. The philosopher who speaks of resilience has endured pain. The leader who inspires others has faced rejection and failure. The artist who creates beauty has known suffering. These individuals did not become who they are despite their struggles, but because of them. Struggle is the forge in which strong minds and strong souls are created. It is easy to see struggle as something to be endured, something to be tolerated until it passes. But endurance alone is not enough. To truly grow, one must engage with the struggle, extract lessons from it, and allow it to transform them. Pain is often a signal, a teacher pointing us towards something we need to change, something we need to strengthen within ourselves. The person who resents hardship remains blind to its lessons, while the person who embraces it gains wisdom. There is a simple truth: the more one resists hardship, the harder it becomes. Struggle is like a river's current. Those who fight against it, thrashing and resisting, exhaust themselves. Those who learn to move with it, to adapt to its flow, find their way forward with greater ease. Life does not bend to our desires, but we can bend to meet life. When we stop seeing struggle as an enemy and instead as an ally in our growth, we move through life with greater peace. This does not mean suffering is pleasant or that we should seek out pain unnecessarily. It means that when difficulty arises, we do not let it break us. We do not waste energy wishing things were different. Instead, we take what is given and use it to become better. The path to wisdom is paved with challenges, and those who walk it willingly, who see every hardship as an opportunity, are the ones who grow stronger, wiser, and freer. Life moves according to its own rhythm, unfolding in ways that often defy our expectations and desires. We try to control it, to shape events according to our will, yet time and time again we find that things do not always go as planned. The harder we cling to certainty, the more we resist the natural flow of life, and the more we suffer. There is an alternative, one that brings peace instead of anxiety, freedom instead of frustration. It is the choice to trust the flow of life, to accept that things happen as they must, and to find strength not in control, but in adaptation. Many struggle with uncertainty. The mind seeks stability, a clear path, a guarantee that everything will go as expected. But life offers no such guarantees. Unexpected changes occur. Relationships evolve or end. Plans unravel. Fortunes rise and fall. The world is in constant motion, indifferent to our preferences. Resisting this truth only leads to suffering. When we expect life to always align with our desires, we invite disappointment. But when we trust that life unfolds as it should, even when we do not understand it, we find a sense of calm. Trusting the flow of life does not mean abandoning effort or passively accepting everything that happens. It does not mean refusing to make decisions or ceasing to work toward meaningful goals. Rather, it means acting with intention while releasing attachment to specific outcomes. It means doing our best in every moment and then allowing events to unfold as they will. There is wisdom in knowing what is within our power and what is not. We can control our actions, our mindset and our responses, but we cannot dictate the course of life itself. Consider the way a river flows. It moves with strength and persistence, yet it does not resist obstacles. When it meets a rock, it does not stop or fight against it. It moves around it, adapting to its presence. A rigid tree in the wind may break, but a flexible reed bends and survives. The same principle applies to life. Those who are rigid in their expectations, who demand that things happen in a specific way, often break under the weight of reality. But those who trust the flow, who adapt to change rather than resist it, move forward with greater ease. Fear often prevents people from trusting life. The fear of failure, the fear of the unknown, the fear of losing what is familiar. But fear is rooted in the illusion that we can predict or control what happens next. The truth is, much of life is beyond our foresight. How many times have things not gone according to plan, only to lead to something unexpectedly good? How often has an apparent misfortune turned out to be a blessing in disguise? The mind is quick to label events as good or bad, but in reality we rarely see the full picture in the moment. What seems like a setback may be a necessary step in our growth. What feels like loss may create space for something better. When we trust the flow of life, we learn to accept change with grace. Instead of resisting what comes, we welcome it as part of the natural order. Instead of clinging to the past, we embrace the present. Instead of fearing the future, we move forward with confidence, knowing that whatever happens, we will adapt. This trust is not blind optimism, it is an understanding that life is not random, that every experience, whether pleasant or difficult, is shaping us in ways we may not yet comprehend. There is peace in surrendering to the rhythm of life, not in the sense of giving up, but in letting go of the need to control every detail. When we stop fighting against reality and start working with it, we find a sense of harmony. Life carries us where we need to go, and our role is not to force its direction, but to navigate it with wisdom, presence, and trust. The present moment is all we truly have, yet so often we allow it to slip away. The mind is rarely still. It is constantly pulled between the past and the future, dwelling on what has already happened or worrying about what is yet to come. We replay old conversations, analyze past mistakes, and cling to memories of better days. At the same time, we project ourselves into an uncertain future, planning, anticipating, and fearing what lies ahead. In doing so, we miss the only moment that is real, the one happening right now. Staying present requires a shift in awareness, a conscious effort to bring our attention back to what is in front of us. It means fully engaging with life as it unfolds, rather than being lost in thought or distraction. When we are present, we experience life more deeply. We notice the small details, a gentle breeze, the warmth of the sun, the sound of laughter. We listen more attentively, appreciate more fully, and respond more wisely. The present is where life happens, yet we often treat it as a means to an end, rushing through it to get somewhere else. One of the greatest sources of suffering is attachment to the past. The mind replays old wounds, holding on to regret, guilt, or longing for what once was. But the past is unchangeable. No amount of thinking or wishing can alter what has already happened. Carrying the weight of past mistakes only burdens the present moment, preventing us from moving forward. The wise person does not dwell on what cannot be undone. They extract lessons from their experiences, accept them, and release them. They understand that each new moment is an opportunity to choose differently, to grow, and to begin again. Similarly, the future is a constant source of anxiety for many. The mind races ahead, trying to predict and control what has not yet arrived. Fear of uncertainty, of failure, of things not going according to plan can consume our thoughts. But the future is not within our grasp. We can prepare, we can plan, but we cannot control every outcome. Worrying about tomorrow does not make it any more certain, it only steals joy from today. Trusting the flow of life, knowing that we will meet each moment as it comes, frees us from this unnecessary burden. Presence is not about ignoring responsibility or avoiding thoughts of the future. It is about grounding ourselves in the here and now, recognizing that this is the only moment in which we can act, change, and live fully. When we stay present, we become more effective in everything we do. Conversations are more meaningful when we are truly listening rather than thinking about what we will say next. Work is done with greater focus when our mind is not divided between multiple concerns. Even simple daily tasks become richer when we give them our full attention. The mind will always try to wander, it is its nature. But each time we notice ourselves drifting into the past or future, we have the ability to gently bring our focus back. With practice, presence becomes a way of being, a natural state of awareness rather than an effort. It is in this state that we find clarity, peace, and the true depth of life. Each moment, no matter how ordinary, becomes a gift when we are fully there to experience it. Peace is often thought of as something external, something that depends on circumstances, possessions, or the behavior of others. People search for it in success, in relationships, in wealth, or in the perfect conditions of life. Yet time and time again, they find that no matter how much they acquire or how carefully they arrange their surroundings, peace remains elusive. This is because true peace does not come from the outside, it comes from within. It is not something to be found, but something to be cultivated, independent of what happens around us. The world is unpredictable. It moves according to its own rhythm, often in ways that defy our desires and expectations. If peace is tied to external conditions, then it is fragile, easily disrupted by misfortune, conflict, or change. A person who depends on everything going their way, on others treating them kindly, or on life being free of hardship will always be at the mercy of forces beyond their control. But the one who cultivates inner peace remains steady, no matter what storms arise. They are like a deep, still lake, untouched by the winds that disturb the surface. Peace is a choice, a mindset, a way of engaging with life. It is not the absence of difficulty, but the ability to remain calm within it. Challenges will come, this is unavoidable. There will be moments of loss, disappointment, and hardship. But these do not have to destroy inner peace. It is not the external event itself that disturbs us, but our perception of it. The mind creates suffering when it resists what is, when it clings to what was, or when it fears what might be. The person who understands this learns to accept reality as it is, rather than as they wish it to be. Letting go of attachment is one of the greatest steps toward inner peace. Many suffer because they place their happiness in things that are fleeting: status, approval, material possessions. These things are impermanent, always subject to change. When peace depends on them, it is always at risk of being taken away. But when one finds peace within, it cannot be lost, because it does not rely on anything outside of oneself. This is the strength of the person who is content with what they have, who does not seek fulfillment in external things, but finds it in a mind that is at ease. Another source of inner peace is the ability to control one's reactions. While we cannot control everything that happens, we can control how we respond. When faced with anger, we can choose patience. When met with hardship, we can choose acceptance. When presented with uncertainty, we can choose trust. The ability to govern one's emotions, to remain steady in the face of life's ups and downs, is what separates those who suffer from those who remain at peace. It is not an easy practice, but it is one that brings true freedom. Many search for peace by trying to escape through distractions, through constant movement, through avoidance of discomfort. But real peace is not found in running away. It is found in stillness and presence, in the willingness to sit with oneself, to face one's thoughts without fear. A mind that is constantly restless, seeking the next source of comfort, will never be at peace. But a mind that is content in stillness, that does not fear solitude, that does not require external validation, is unshakable. Peace from within is unbreakable because it does not depend on anything temporary. It is not something given by the world, and therefore it cannot be taken away by the world. It is the result of deep understanding, of acceptance, of mastery over one's thoughts and emotions. When this kind of peace is cultivated, life becomes lighter. The struggles that once seemed overwhelming lose their power. The noise of the world does not disturb the quiet of the soul, and in this stillness, in this unwavering calm, one finds true freedom. True peace is not something we must chase, it is something we must uncover within ourselves. It is not found in perfect circumstances, nor is it given by others. It is cultivated through acceptance, presence, and inner strength. When we stop looking for peace outside of ourselves and instead nurture it from within, we become unshakable. No storm can disturb us, no loss can break us, and no uncertainty can unsettle us. The world may change, challenges may arise, but a peaceful mind remains steady. In the end, the greatest freedom is knowing that no matter what happens, the source of our peace is always within us.